Prison walls are meant to be final. They are concrete promises to society, barriers meant to hold back those who've crossed the line. Guards believe them to be invincible. Politicians tell us they are unbreakable. But history has proven a darker truth. Walls can crack, steel can bend, and desperation can find a way through anything in 2025. Around the world, prison systems once thought to be flawless were tested and shattered. From the deserts of Nevada to the neon-lit towers of Tokyo to the crowded streets of Sao Paulo, stories of escape led through the cracks of supposedly perfect security. These weren't just inmates running for freedom. These were minds working against entire systems. Some were fueled by criminal genius, others by sheer desperation, and some by outside networks powerful enough to move mountains. Tonight, we dive into the unseen walls that crumbled in 2025. 6 stories, 6 escapes. One reminding us that no wall, no matter how high, can ever truly contain the human will to be free.
Nevada, a desert landscape stretching endlessly in all directions, filled with the silence of sun-scorched earth and the shadows of maximum security walls. Black Ridge Prison stood here like a fortress, isolated, ironbound, surrounded by motion, sensors, cameras, and armed towers, the kind of place people said no man could ever leave alive. Inside, one inmate walked the yards like he was invisible. Daniel Mercer, known among fellow prisoners as the Ghost. Mercer wasn't famous like some mob bosses or serial killers. He didn't seek the spotlight. He had been convicted for a series of armed robberies across 5 states, leaving behind a trail of unanswered questions. What made him dangerous wasn't violence, it was his ability to disappear. During his criminal career, Mercer had escaped police cordons, roadblocks, and even a federal dragnet. Each time investigators would arrive just minutes too late. By 2021, his luck ended. The FBI cornered him in Arizona after a 6-hour chase. This time, Mercer had no escape route left. He was sentenced to 45 years and sent to Black Ridge, the state's toughest lockup. But prison did not break him. It became his laboratory, Mercer observed. He memorized guard rotations down to the second. He studied security cameras, learning when lenses would catch a glare from the Nevada sun and blind the view for half a second. He kept his behavior spotless, polite, quiet, obedient. Guards forgot about him. Other inmates ignored him. And all the while, the Ghost was mapping his way out. The breakout came on a February night in 2025. At 2:14 a.m., security feeds flickered. For exactly 12 minutes, cameras covering the South Maintenance Corridor went dark. Later, investigators would argue over how this happened. Was it a deliberate hack from outside, or did Mercer have help from someone inside? To this day, no one knows. What is known is chilling during those 12 minutes. Mercer pried open a maintenance hatch that was believed to be welded shut. Inside, he crawled through a narrow shaft lined with electrical wiring, a space so small even maintenance workers avoided it. At the far end, he emerged into a service building just outside the prison wall. When the cameras blinked back online, Mercer was gone. By dawn, search teams scoured the desert. Drones circled overhead. Bloodhounds traced his scent to a stretch, with highway and then nothing. Like smoke, Mercer had vanished into the air. For weeks, Nevada law enforcement was under siege. Media outlets demanded answers. Families of victims called it a disgrace. Was the Ghost still in Nevada? Had he crossed state lines? Did he even have help from someone inside the prison itself? The FBI remained silent on the case. What they will admit is this: Daniel Mercer has not been seen again. The Ghost walked through walls we swore could never be broken, and with him he carried our illusion of control. Tokyo, a city of neon lights, crowded subways, and cutting-edge technology. Japan is famous for precision, for order, for efficiency. Its prisons reflect the same: clean, tightly monitored, controlled to the smallest detail. Unlike in some countries, corruption inside is rare. Guards are disciplined, inmates are constantly watched. To the public, it is almost unthinkable that anyone could escape. But in March 2025, Japan faced a nightmare it had never imagined. The man at the center was Kenji Sato, a 32-year-old. Sato was not a thug, not a gangster, not a man with muscles or weapons. His power lay in his fingers and in his mind. He was once a software engineer, celebrated for his intelligence, until greed led him into the shadows of the digital underworld. By 2022, Sato had orchestrated one of the largest cryptocurrency heists in Japanese history, stealing millions through a sophisticated phishing scheme. His crime wasn't just financial. It embarrassed Japan's reputation as a technological fortress. When he was finally captured in 2023, the courts wanted to make an example of him. He was sentenced to 18 years inside Shinjuku Detention Center prison. However, it didn't stop Sato's mind from working. Unlike Mercer in Nevada, who relied on patience and observation, Sato relied on exploiting systems. He wasn't going to dig through walls or scale fences, he was going to hack his way out. Inmates are searched frequently, and contraband is rare in Japanese prisons, but investigators later speculated that Sato managed to smuggle in a micro-device, smaller than a lighter, disguised in personal mail. Some say it was hidden inside a hollowed-out paperback book. Others whisper it came through a bribed delivery driver, however it entered. The fact remains, Sato had a weapon no one could see. That weapon was technology. On the night of March 17th, Shinjuku's system began to glitch. First, the digital clocks displayed errors. Then, electronic cell locks froze. Within minutes, entire hallways were buzzing with alarms. Guards scrambled, thinking it was a technical malfunction. In the chaos, Sato struck. Surveillance footage later leaked to the press shows him moving calmly, not like an inmate in panic, but like a man following a carefully rehearsed script. One security door, then another, clicked open in front of him, as if the prison itself was guiding him out. By 2:30 a.m. he reached the delivery bay. The service truck was scheduled to arrive with food supplies at dawn, but somehow, one vehicle was already there waiting. Whether it was an accomplice, or whether Sato manipulated the scheduling system himself, no one knows. He climbed into the back, and when the bay doors closed, Kenji Sato, the man Japan had sworn was locked away, was gone. By sunrise, the government was in crisis. Japan had never faced a modern escape like this. News headlines blared digital prison break. Experts debated whether Sato had inside help, or if he truly had hacked his way through one of the world's most secure facilities. The Ministry of Justice admitted something chilling: Sato had exploited not concrete walls, not iron locks, but the invisible systems everyone took for granted. Interpol issued a red notice. Rumors swirled that Sato had fled to the Philippines or Thailand, where cybercrime networks offered him sanctuary. Some whispered he had already built a new digital empire, trading stolen data for protection. What unsettled the public most was not that he had escaped, but how this was no tunnel, no brute force. This was a ghost slipping through wires, using technology against the very people who created it. To this day, Kenji Sato has not been recaptured, and his escape leaves a terrifying question. If one man, with nothing but a hidden device, could outwit an entire prison system, what happens when others follow his blueprint? Prisons are built of stone, steel, and silence, but Sato proved that sometimes the most dangerous walls are the ones you cannot see. Brazil, a country of music, beaches, and football, but also a country where prisons often struggle under the weight of overcrowding, corruption, and the iron grip of organized crime. The world has heard of prison riots and mass escapes from South America before, but what happened in July 2025 was unlike anything Brazil had seen in years. The setting was Santa Helena Penitentiary, a massive facility outside São Paulo, designed to hold 2,000 inmates. It often held nearly 3,000. Guards were overworked, security stretched thin, and conditions inside simmered with tension. Among the prisoners were members of Brazil's most powerful cartel, men who lived by one law: never accept the cage. They had a plan, and like ants, they began to dig. The operation began in late 2024. Inmates posing as janitors began stealing small tools, a spoon here, a piece of metal there, even old cutlery from the prison kitchen. At first, they didn't dig much, just a small hole under a bathroom floor, carefully concealed after each shift. But slowly, methodically, they expanded it. The soil was the problem. How do you move tons of earth without anyone noticing? Their solution was cunning. They filled laundry bags with dirt and mixed them with the prison's dirty clothes headed for washing. They stuffed pockets of soil into trash bags sent out as waste. Some even carried small amounts in their pants, scattering it in exercise yards like dust. Bit by bit, a tunnel began to snake outward, a dark artery beneath the prison. By March 2025, the tunnel had grown massive. Investigators later discovered it stretched nearly 300 meters, almost the length of 3 football fields. What shocked experts wasn't just its length, but its sophistication. Wooden beams reinforced the walls, preventing collapse. Plastic pipes stolen from maintenance crews were rigged into makeshift ventilation shafts. In some areas, they even installed electric wires for dim lighting. It wasn't a crude hole. It was a highway, hidden road to freedom. Authorities believe the project was funded by cartel leaders outside the prison. Money bought bribes, silence, and perhaps even the materials smuggled inside. This wasn't desperation, it was organization, strategy, and power. On July 22, 2025, it happened at 2:45 a.m. Guards on night duty noticed unusual silence. Normally, Santa Helena echoed with voices, footsteps, the restless noises of overcrowded inmates. But that night, the air was heavy. By dawn, the truth was revealed. 14 inmates were missing. When guards entered one of the bathroom blocks, they found the entrance a carefully disguised hole in the corner stall. The tunnel beneath was like something from a war movie, wide enough to crawl comfortably, reinforced like a mine shaft. The escapees had spent months carving it, and in one night they emerged in the middle of a quiet neighborhood outside the prison walls. Locals later reported seeing shadows moving through the streets, men vanishing into waiting vehicles. The media quickly gave it a name: the ant colony escape. Police swarmed São Paulo. Roadblocks were set up. Checkpoints dotted the highways. Within 48 hours, 3 escapees were recaptured, but the rest, 11 hardened cartel members, disappeared into the sprawling favelas, where law enforcement had little reach. The government faced public outrage. How could such a tunnel exist under one of Brazil's biggest prisons without anyone noticing? Critics pointed to corruption, guards turning a blind eye for bribes. Officials blamed underfunding and overcrowding, but one fact remained undeniable. This wasn't just an escape. It was a statement that the cartel had shown that their influence could dig through concrete, break through earth, and undermine the very foundations of Brazil's justice system. A prison is meant to be an island cut off from the world, but in São Paulo that island sprouted a bridge, an underground highway of dirt and shadows. Like ants, they worked silently, patiently, and when the time came, they poured out into the night. The ant colony reminded us of something terrifying. When desperation meets organization, even the earth itself can be turned into an exit door. Europe prides itself on its advanced security systems, strict laws, and unbreakable institutions. But history has shown that some of the most daring and cinematic escapes have happened not in chaotic prisons, but in places where officials believed nothing could go wrong. That truth came back to haunt France in September 2025, when one of the most shocking and theatrical prison escapes of the decade unfolded in broad daylight. His name was Adrien Leclerc, a 39-year-old career criminal, known across Europe for high-stakes robberies. Nicknamed the Magician by French tabloids, Leclerc wasn't just a thief, he was a master planner. His crimes were executed with precision, almost like stage performances. In 2019, Leclerc was arrested after a violent heist on an armored truck outside Lyon. Though no one was killed, he was convicted of armed robbery and attempted murder. By 2020, he was locked inside Fleury-Mérogis prison, one of Europe's largest maximum security facilities. But even behind walls, Leclerc kept his reputation alive. Guards called him manipulative, clever, and utterly fearless. Fellow inmates said he had one obsession: freedom. In early 2025, whispers began circulating in the French underworld. Friends and associates of Leclerc were said to be gathering resources, not weapons, not explosives, but something more dramatic: a helicopter. This was not a new idea in France. In fact, France had a long, strange history of helicopter prison escapes, daring rescues that seemed ripped from Hollywood scripts. But by 2025, the authorities believed such methods were nearly impossible thanks to reinforced air defenses around prisons. They were wrong. On the morning of September 6, 2025, Fleury-Mérogis prison began like any other. Guards rotated and mates followed their routines. Leclerc was scheduled for visitation that day. At 11:23 a.m., the hum of rotor blades cut through the air. Witnesses outside the prison reported seeing a black helicopter swooping low, circling like a predator. Within seconds, panic spread. Guards scrambled to raise alarms, but the chopper was already hovering directly above the courtyard. 2 masked men leaned out with rifles covering the yard. At the same time, they lowered a rope ladder. Cameras later showed Adrien Leclerc racing into the courtyard, sprinting with the speed of a man who had been preparing for this moment for years. He climbed, hands gripping, feet kicking against the wall. Leclerc ascended into the sky as guards below shouted, "Helpless." Within 90 seconds, he was inside the helicopter. The aircraft banked sharply, engines roaring, and within minutes it was gone, swallowed by the Parisian skyline. The escape was devastating for France's prison system. Despite deploying helicopters and drones in pursuit, the fugitives vanished. The aircraft used in the escape was later found abandoned in a rural field outside Paris, its paint stripped, its identifying numbers removed. Inside, investigators found rope, tools, and burned documents. Whoever planned the escape had meticulously erased every trace. Adrien Leclerc, the magician, had vanished once again. The French media exploded with coverage. Headlines screamed, "Hollywood-style escape in Paris." Citizens were stunned that in 2025, an era of advanced surveillance, drones, and biometric controls, an inmate could simply fly out of one of Europe's most secure prisons. The Minister of Justice faced heated criticism. Families of victims of Leclerc's robberies demanded answers. Politicians debated whether France's prison system was outdated, still vulnerable to tricks that belonged to a different era. Interpol issued an international warrant. Leclerc was placed on Europe's most wanted list. But whispers suggested he had already crossed into Spain, where organized crime groups could shelter him. Others believed he fled farther, possibly to North Africa. a region where many French fugitives vanished forever. In Europe, walls were high, doors were steel, and guards were armed. But Adrian Leclerc's escape proved something haunting sometimes. The greatest weakness is not inside the prison at all, it's the sky above it. For France, it was a humiliation. For Leclerc, it was the performance of a lifetime. For the rest of us, it was a reminder. No matter how many walls we build, freedom may sometimes come from above. Dubai, a city of glass towers, golden wealth, and security so tight that many call it the fortress of the Middle East. Known for its luxury and control, Dubai prides itself on being one of the safest cities in the world, a place where surveillance is constant, where crime is swiftly punished, and where prisons are said to be impenetrable. And yet, in November 2025, the impossible happened. The man at the center of this escape was Karim Al-Masri, a 41-year-old financier from Cairo. But Karim was no ordinary inmate. Behind his polished suits and calm demeanor, investigators claimed he was the hidden banker for one of the most powerful smuggling syndicates operating between North Africa and the Gulf. When he was arrested in 2023, it shocked the region. Dubai police called it their biggest financial takedown in a decade. Al-Masri had allegedly laundered hundreds of millions of dollars, moving money through shell companies, cryptocurrency wallets, and offshore accounts. But Karim was not a violent man. He was calm, educated, calculating. His real weapon wasn't a gun, it was influence. And influence, even in prison, is dangerous. Karim was sent to Al-Awir prison, one of Dubai's largest and most secure facilities. Its walls are thick, its guards highly trained, its technology among the most advanced in the world. To most observers, Al-Awir was unbreakable, but Karim was patient, and patience is a currency more powerful than money. In late 2025, rumors spread inside Al-Awir that Karim had access to privileges other inmates could only dream of. Guards whispered about small gifts, special meals, even quiet conversations with influential visitors. Then came the night of November 12, 2025. At 1 a.m., a delivery truck approached the prison. On paper, it was carrying cleaning supplies. Guards on duty scanned its papers. Everything appeared legitimate. The truck entered through Gate 3, but security cameras later showed something unusual. The driver never unloaded his cargo. Instead, he parked near the administrative wing where Karim was being held at 1:27 a.m. The cameras facing that section of the yard suddenly cut out for 6 minutes. When they blinked back to life, the truck was gone, and so was Karim Al-Masri. When guards discovered the escape, chaos erupted. Roadblocks were set up across Dubai. Airports went into immediate lockdown. The truck was later found abandoned near the outskirts of the desert, empty, its license plates fake, its papers forged, but Karim had vanished. Investigators believe he was smuggled out of Dubai within hours, possibly aboard a private yacht heading toward Oman. Others suspect he boarded a private plane using false identification before airport security had even realized he was gone. What terrified authorities most wasn't just the escape itself, it was the sophistication. Karim had orchestrated his freedom not with violence, but with paperwork, timing, and influence. It was a reminder that in a city built on control, money and power could bend even the strongest walls. News of the escape rocked the Gulf. International financial watchdogs accused Dubai of failing to keep one of the world's most important financial criminals behind bars. Politicians scrambled to contain the scandal. To this day, Karim's location remains unknown. Some say he is living quietly in North Africa under a new identity. Others whisper he is still in the Gulf, protected by the same networks he once served on. The desert, a mirage, is an illusion. Water that isn't there. Hope that disappears when you approach it. In 2025, Al-Awir prison became a mirage. Its walls looked solid, its gates looked strong, its systems looked flawless, but Karim Al-Masri walked through those illusions as if they were smoke, and in doing so, he showed us a truth the world doesn't want to hear. Sometimes, freedom isn't stolen with violence. Sometimes, it's bought, planned, and quietly delivered through the very doors we believe are locked. Not every plan works. Not every tunnel leads to freedom. Some end in betrayal, in tragedy, or in the cold grip of steel. In December 2025, Turkey reminded the world that while some inmates outsmart the system, others discovered that the walls fight back. His name was Selim Kaya, a 29-year-old convicted for his role in a violent robbery that left 2 civilians dead in Istanbul. Unlike the calculating minds of Mercer in Nevada or Sato in Tokyo, Kaya was reckless, impulsive, and desperate. He was serving a life sentence inside Silivri prison, one of Europe's largest correctional facilities, known as Turkey's Iron Fortress. With its layered walls, hundreds of guards, and constant surveillance, Silivri was considered escape-proof, but desperation is blind to statistics. In early December, Selim Kaya began whispering to other inmates about a bold plan. He had secured a smuggled tool, a small blowtorch hidden inside a delivery of kitchen supplies. The idea was simple: cut through the steel bars of a workshop window, climb into the outer yard and scale the perimeter wall under cover of night. Unlike the ant colony in Brazil or Leclerc's helicopter in France, Kaya's plan was crude, rushed, and careless, but he was convinced it would work. On the night of December 14, 2025, Kaya and two accomplices made their move. At 2 a.m. the blowtorch sparked slowly, painfully. The bars began to weaken. Sweat poured down their faces as they worked in silence. By 2:45 a.m., one of the bars cracked loose. Freedom seemed inches away. But what Kaya hadn't considered was the thermal sensors installed in the intense heat from the torch triggered alarms in the control room. Within minutes, guards surrounded the workshop. The inmates tried to run. Kaya made it into the courtyard, racing toward the outer wall. Spotlights exploded into life, cutting through the darkness. Sirens screamed. A warning shot cracked across the night air. Kaya froze, realizing the truth. The walls of Silery were not just concrete and steel. They were alive, watching, waiting. Within moments, guards tackled him to the ground. The accomplices surrendered. The escape was over before it had even truly begun. But the failure didn't just end with recapture. Kaya was immediately transferred to solitary confinement. Authorities announced that every inmate involved would face new charges, adding decades to their sentences. In the end, the escape didn't buy him freedom. It bought him a tighter cage. The world remembers the daring escapes, the ghost who vanished in Nevada, the digital phantom in Tokyo, the tunnelers of Brazil, the magician who flew away in France, and the mirage of Dubai. But for every escape we remember, there are dozens we forget, desperate attempts that collapse under the weight of reality. Selim Kaya's story is not one of triumph, but of futility. His failure stands as a reminder that while some slip through the cracks, most who test the walls discover that those walls push back. You've just watched Unseen Walls, the greatest prison breaks of 2025. If you found this documentary as gripping as we did, don't forget to subscribe to the channel for more chilling true crime stories from around the world. Hit the bell icon so you never miss an upload. Like this video if you enjoyed it, and share it with your friends who love true crime. And most importantly, tell us in the comments which escape shocked you the most. We'll be back soon with another story, one even darker, even more unbelievable. Until then, stay safe, stay curious, and remember, sometimes the walls we trust the most are the ones that fail us.